Most people over 60 are told the same thing. Cut back on salt. It sounds sensible. It sounds safe. But here is what nobody tells you. Cutting salt alone does not protect your independence. Roughly 2 out of every 3 adults over 60 are living with high blood pressure. Almost all of them have been warned about sodium. Very few have ever been told the second half of that equation. Most adults take in about 2,500 milligrams of potassium a day. The recommended intake is 3,400 milligrams for men and 2,600 for women. Cardiology and kidney clinics see that gap every single day. In the next few minutes, I will show you the 5 places this mineral hides in ordinary food. And I will give you the one insight about mineral balance that a 12-minute appointment never has time to cover. The number 1 item on this list is something almost nobody talks about. Stay with me until the end, because that one can change how you approach the next 10 years. Think about how a blood pressure appointment actually goes. You sit down, a cuff goes on, and a number appears on a screen. If that number is high, the talk turns to medication, and then to 2 words: less salt. The whole visit lasts about 12 minutes. Much of that time belongs to paperwork and refills. There is no room to explain mineral balance, kidney filtration, or what your grocery cart is doing between visits. It is not that your doctor does not know this. The clock does not allow it. I am not here to sell you a supplement or scare you into a course. This channel exists to give you the science a 12-minute appointment never has time to cover. Nothing is being pitched at the end of this video. The strongest item on today's list costs about $4 at any supermarket. Here's why this matters more at 70 than it did at 40. Pressure that stays high for years drives stroke, kidney decline, and slow memory change. Those are the 3 things that take away a driver's license and then a front door key. This is not about living longer in the abstract. It is about still climbing your own stairs in your own home. So tell me in the comments, your age and your last morning blood pressure reading? I read those numbers, and they tell me exactly who is watching. Blood pressure is not really about salt. It is about the ratio between 2 minerals, sodium and potassium. Sodium tells your body to hold water, and more water inside fixed pipes means more pressure on the walls. Potassium does the opposite. It signals the kidney to release sodium and water. It also helps the muscle in your artery walls relax instead of clench. Picture your circulation as the water system of a small town. Sodium is the valve keeping the reservoir full. Potassium is the drain that lets the excess run off. Our ancestors ate very little sodium and enormous amounts of potassium from plants. Modern eating flipped that completely. The valve is wide open and the drain is half blocked. So cutting salt alone is turning down the tap while the drain stays clogged. That is why so many people cut salt and see almost nothing happen. Please do not skip this section. It is the key to everything that follows, because every item on this list works by opening that drain. If this is already making sense to you, tap the like button so more seniors can find it. That is the only thing that decides whether this reaches the people who need it. Number 5 is plain, unsweetened yogurt. 1 cup carries roughly 500 to 600 milligrams of potassium, more than a banana. Dairy is not filed under potassium in anyone's mind, and that is exactly why it hides. The potassium arrives alongside calcium and magnesium, and all 3 act on the same artery wall. Think of the muscle in your blood vessel as a hand that can grip or open. Calcium is the signal to grip. Potassium and magnesium are the signals to let go. When potassium runs short, that hand stays clenched, and a clenched vessel is a higher number on the cuff. The original DASH trial, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, was built around fruit, vegetables, and low-fat dairy. In people with high blood pressure, it lowered the top number by around 11 points in 8 weeks. Here's the protocol. 1 cup of plain yogurt, once a day, at breakfast, or as an evening snack. Choose one with 6 grams of sugar or less per serving. Because flavored versions often carry 4 teaspoons of added sugar. Plain Greek yogurt adds 15 to 20 grams of protein in the same cup. Give it 4 full weeks before you judge anything. The mistake almost everyone makes is buying the fruit on the bottom version and calling it health food. If dairy upsets your stomach, choose lactose-free plain yogurt or plain kefir. If you have kidney disease or have been told your potassium runs high, this item is not for you. That warning applies to every item on this list. If you take a potassium-sparing water pill, an ACE inhibitor, or an angiotensin receptor blocker, ask your doctor before raising potassium at all. Bloating or cramping that lasts more than a few days is a stop signal, not something to push through. Pair the yogurt with a small handful of unsalted pumpkin seeds. That adds magnesium, and magnesium is what lets your cells hold on to the potassium you eat. Without it, potassium leaks straight back out through the kidney. Put your hand flat on the table for a moment and picture your own refrigerator door. But yogurt has a ceiling. 1 cup will not close a 900 milligram gap on its own. For that, you need a single food that delivers almost twice as much in 1 serving, and most people throw away the exact part that carries it. That is number 4. Number 4 is a whole baked potato, eaten with the skin on. 1 medium baked potato with the skin carries roughly 900 milligrams of potassium. The potato spent 40 years being called nothing but a starch. That reputation cost older adults one of the most potassium-dense foods in the store. The mineral sits in and just under the skin, because that is where the plant stores it. Picture the potato as a sponge that's soaked in mineral-rich water underground. Peel it, boil it, and you wring that sponge out into water you pour down the sink. Baking keeps almost all of it in place. This is why kidney patients are actually taught to boil and drain their vegetables. It is a recognized way to remove potassium, so you want the oven, not the pot. Here is the protocol. 1 medium potato, about the size of your fist, skin on. Bake it at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 45 to 50 minutes, 4 times a week. A microwave works just as well in 8 to 10 minutes, as long as the skin stays on. Do not salt it at the table. That single habit is what item number 1 will dismantle completely. Top it with 2 tablespoons of the yogurt from item 5 and plenty of black pepper. The common error is eating potato as fries or chips, where sodium overwhelms every milligram inside. If you have diabetes, use half a potato, eat it with protein, and check your numbers. A sweet potato with the skin is a gentler alternative and still brings about 500 milligrams. If chewing skin is hard, mash the flesh and skin together with a fork instead of peeling. And if your kidneys are not filtering normally, skip this item and speak to your doctor first. Pair the baked potato with white fish or beans in the same meal. That gives you potassium and protein together, and protein protects the leg muscle you need to stand up. Pressure and leg strength are the 2 pillars of staying in your own home, and this pairing feeds both. Still, a potato is 1 food a few times a week. It does nothing about the vegetables sitting untouched in your crisper drawer. 1 family of vegetables concentrates more potassium per bite than almost anything else on Earth. Most people over 60 stopped eating it decades ago. That is number 3. Number 3 is cooked leafy greens, and specifically Swiss chard and beet greens. 1 cup of cooked chard carries about 960 milligrams of potassium. Beet greens carry more than 1,000. Raw salad feels healthy, but a large bowl of raw spinach cooks down to about 1/4 cup. Cooking is not the enemy of this mineral. Cooking is the delivery truck. Think of raw greens as a folded road map. Cooked greens are the same map pressed flat into your hand. You get the whole surface in 1 bite instead of chewing air. Potassium survives steaming and sautéing well, as long as you do not boil the greens and pour the water away. Pooled analyses of clinical trials put the average drop in the top number at about 3 to 5 points. That is in people who already have high blood pressure, and in pressure terms, it is not a small number. Here is the protocol. 1 cup of cooked greens, 5 days a week. Sauté them in 1 tablespoon of olive oil with garlic for 6 to 8 minutes. Buy frozen because fresh greens turn to liquid in the drawer while you plan to use them. One 10-ounce box makes about 1.5 cups cooked and costs around $2. Add them to something you already eat. Scrambled eggs, soup in the last 2 minutes, or the potato from item 4. Do not salt the pan. Use lemon juice, vinegar, or garlic because acid gives your tongue what salt gives it. Keep that instruction in mind because it becomes the whole point of item number 1. If you take warfarin, greens are high in vitamin K. The rule is not to avoid them. It is to keep your intake steady week to week and to tell your doctor you are changing your diet. If you have had calcium oxalate kidney stones, favor chard and kale over spinach and beet greens. If chewing or swallowing is difficult, blend the cooked greens into soup rather than skipping them. New swelling in your ankles or a heartbeat that feels different means stop and call your doctor. Pair your greens with vitamin C in the same meal. Half a red bell pepper or a squeeze of lemon. That sharply increases the iron you absorb, and low iron is an overlooked cause of fatigue after 70. Potassium protects your pressure, iron protects your energy from the same forkful. When was the last time you ate a green vegetable that was not lettuce? Greens carry almost no protein, so hunger comes back quickly. One food matches greens for potassium, adds 15 grams of protein, and costs about 90 cents a can. That is number 2. Number 2 is white beans. Cannellini, Great Northern, or Navy. 1 cup of cooked white beans delivers around 1,000 milligrams of potassium. Beans do something nothing else on this list does. They carry potassium, magnesium, and soluble fiber in the same package. That fiber forms a gel in the gut and drags cholesterol out with it. Picture your artery as a garden hose left in the sun for years. Stiff walls, a narrow opening, and pressure spiking at the nozzle. Potassium relaxes the wall while the fiber reduces what is coating the inside. You are widening the hose and softening it at the same time. The DASH eating pattern and the Mediterranean pattern both lean heavily on legumes. That is not fashion. It is because beans move pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar in the right direction at once. Here is the protocol. Half a cup to 1 cup of cooked white beans, 5 days a week. Buy the no salt added cans and rinse them in a colander for 30 seconds. Rinsing removes a meaningful share of the sodium sitting in that liquid. Start at 1/4 cup a day for the first week and build up slowly. Jumping straight to a full cup will make you gassy, and then you will quit. The error is the pork and beans can, which adds back the sodium and sugar you came here to avoid. If beans cause real discomfort, soak dried beans overnight and throw the soaking water away. Lentils are gentler and still bring about 700 milligrams a cup. If you are on a fluid restriction for heart failure, count the liquid in canned goods. If you take a water pill, ask your doctor which kind, because some waste potassium and some hold on to it. Persistent stomach pain is a stop sign, not an adjustment period. Pair the beans with the greens from item 3 in 1 pot with tomato and garlic. That single bowl carries close to 2,000 milligrams of potassium. That is roughly 2/3 of a full day for about $1.50. But here is the uncomfortable truth. You can do all 4 of these perfectly and still watch your pressure barely move. Everything so far is about how much potassium goes in. The cuff is governed by a ratio, and the other half of that ratio is sitting on your kitchen table right now. That is number 1, and almost nobody talks about it. Number 1 is the potassium chloride salt substitute. It is the ordinary-looking shaker sold beside the salt for about $4. It is not a supplement and it is not a pill. It is table salt in which a quarter to a half of the sodium has been replaced with potassium. This is the item that fulfills everything I promised at the start. Every other item on this list adds potassium to your day. This one adds potassium and removes sodium in the same motion at the exact moment you are about to reach for the shaker. Go back to the water system of that small town. Items 5 through 2 open the drain a little wider. This one opens the drain and turns down the tap with the same hand. That matters because your body does not read sodium and potassium as two separate numbers. It reads the ratio between them. You can eat a potato and a cup of beans, salt them both, and move that ratio almost nowhere. In 2021, the New England Journal of Medicine published one of the largest trials ever run on this question. About 21,000 adults, average age around 65, replaced their regular salt with a potassium-enriched salt substitute for roughly 5 years. The group using the substitute had fewer strokes, fewer major cardiovascular events, and fewer deaths from any cause. That is an outcome result, not just a lower reading on a cuff. Here is the protocol, and please listen to the whole thing before you buy anything. Step 1. Before you change one thing, ask your doctor 2 questions. What is my kidney function, and do any of my medications raise my potassium? That is a 30-second question at your next visit, and it decides whether this item is right for you or dangerous for you. Step 2. If you get the clear, buy a potassium chloride-based salt substitute or a low-sodium blend that lists potassium chloride on the label. Step 3. Use it at the table and at the end of cooking, about a quarter teaspoon a day to start. It can turn slightly bitter under high heat, so add it after the pan comes off the burner. Step 4. Spend 2 weeks reading labels instead of watching your shaker, because roughly 70% of the sodium most people eat was already in the food before it reached the kitchen. The 3 biggest hiding places are bread and rolls, deli meat, and canned soup. 1 cup of ordinary canned soup can carry 800 milligrams of sodium. Step 5. Give it 8 weeks and keep a written log. Same arm, same chair, same time each morning. 5 quiet minutes seated before the cuff goes on. The mistake people make is using twice as much substitute as they used of salt because it tastes milder, and that turns a good idea into an unmeasured dose. Now, the part that matters more than anything else I have said today: do not use a potassium salt substitute if you have chronic kidney disease, if you have ever been told your potassium runs high, or if you are on dialysis. Do not use it if you take an ACE inhibitor, an angiotensin receptor blocker, spironolactone, or another potassium-sparing water pill, unless your doctor has approved it and checked your blood. Those medications are common after 65, and combined with extra potassium, they can push your level too high, which affects heart rhythm. The warning signs are muscle weakness coming on over hours, numbness or tingling, a slow or irregular heartbeat, or unusual tiredness. That is a stop and call your doctor today situation, not a wait and see. If you cannot use this item, use the food from items 5 through 2 instead and simply cut added sodium, and you will still get most of the way there. Pair the salt substitute with one habit: taste your food before you season it. Salt preference is trained, and it retrains in about 2 to 4 weeks, so what tastes flat in week 1 tastes normal by week 4. Pair it also with lemon, vinegar, garlic, black pepper, and smoked paprika, which give your tongue the sharpness it is actually looking for. Together, these turn a mineral fix into a permanent change in how your kitchen works. This is why I asked you to stay to the end. The mineral that rivals a low-dose blood pressure medication in some trials has been sitting on supermarket shelves for decades, 4 feet from the salt, with almost nobody explaining it. It does not replace your medication, and nobody should ever stop a prescription over a video. Taken alongside your treatment, it is one of the few free levers you still control. Blood pressure is not fate. Salt is not the whole story. balance is trained. Consider a typical case documented in the cardiology and rehabilitation literature. A 74-year-old woman living alone on 2 blood pressure medications, with morning readings around 152/88. She had cut salt at the table for 3 years and seen almost no change. That had quietly convinced her nothing she did mattered. Her days ran on toast, tea, packaged deli meat, and canned soup. Very little potassium and a great deal of hidden sodium. The change was small and specific. Plain yogurt at breakfast instead of toast and jam. A baked potato with the skin 4 evenings a week. A can of rinsed white beans stirred into soup she made herself. Frozen greens sautéed with garlic 5 days a week. And after her doctor confirmed her kidney function was normal and reviewed her medications, a 1/4 teaspoon of potassium salt, substitute at the table instead of salt. At 8 weeks, her morning readings were averaging around 136/82. Her medications did not change, and no doctor was bypassed at any point. What changed was the ratio arriving in her body every single day. The part she noticed first was not the number. It was that the stairs to her bedroom stopped feeling like a decision. So here is exactly what to do. Starting tonight, 5 steps, and none of them take more than a few minutes. Tonight, bake 1 medium potato, skin on, 400 degrees, 45 minutes, and top it with 2 tablespoons of plain yogurt instead of butter and salt. That 1 plate carries roughly 1,000 milligrams of potassium. Tomorrow, open your pantry and read 3 labels: your bread, your soup, and your deli meat. Write down the sodium per serving on each, because you cannot fix a number you have never seen. This week, buy 1 large container of plain yogurt and 2 cans of no salt, added white beans, which together cost under $6. Rinse those beans for 30 seconds before you use them. This week also, buy 1 10-ounce box of frozen chopped greens and cook 1 cup 5 days out of 7 in 1 tablespoon of olive oil. At your next appointment, and make it within the next month, ask the 2 questions from item number 1. What is my kidney function, and do my medications raise my potassium? Take that answer seriously in both directions, because it decides whether the salt substitute is your best tool or the one thing you must avoid. And starting tomorrow morning, take 1 reading a day for 8 weeks. Same arm, same chair, same time, 5 quiet minutes seated. Write each one on paper, not in your head. 8 weeks of numbers on paper is the most persuasive thing you can carry into a 12-minute appointment. Think of someone in your life who has been told to cut back on salt and has been trying, quietly and without much result, for years. It might be a parent, or it might be the person you see in the mirror. Send them this video, because the other half of that equation is something nobody has ever explained to them. Tell me in the comments which of these you are starting tonight. Your answers decide exactly what I cover next. If this is the kind of explanation you want more of, subscribe to this channel. It exists for one reason: to give seniors the science that a 12-minute appointment never has time to cover. This video is education, not a diagnosis. Your own doctor knows your history, so bring this list to your next appointment. I'm Warren Hayes. Don't forget to subscribe and live longer.